Practice session. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today. We're going to cover the invoice to cash with Sage Air Automation. So just to kind of go over some of the topics, we're going to talk about some of the challenges of manual collections and the manual collection process. If you're currently working on spreadsheets, we're going to help you get away from that today. We're also going to explain what Air Automation is and talk about some of the benchmarks. We do have a customer spotlight, which we're going to highlight how a customer was able to utilize the solution to increase cash flow to their business. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So some of the manual benchmarks, if you're doing manual collections today, it can be very time consuming. We found is most collection calls typically take 25 to 40 minutes. It's very difficult to get more than 40 to 60 outbound communications a day for most of the AR team. And typically less than 10% of your customer base is connected about invoice status. So we have a lot of customers that are prospects that come to us to be customers that are currently doing manual collections using a spreadsheet. This is an actual example from one of our customers. This is how they were doing it previously. And they were color coding a spreadsheet. It was very difficult to read. They were sharing this out through the company, and only a handful of people actually were looking at it regularly. So it was a lot of double work. Everything that was said on the phone was not only logged into whatever note system they had, they were also logging it here as well. So it was very difficult to track things like promises to pay when somebody's reached out and said, yeah, we're going to pay that in a few days. And this is where the solution really shines, keeping everything in one spot and creating reports and dashboards where you can see what's going on with your accounts receivable and get a good holistic view of your accounts receivable. We also have the ability to do installment plans inside the solution, as well as manage things like disputes and track those promises to pay, as well as tracking follow-ups. All of our follow-ups inside the system are unique because they are smart follow-ups. When a customer pays, that follow-up just drops off the calendar. So the collector doesn't need to go and reach out or go and look at the account inside of the ERP system to see if that customer is paid or not. It's automatically factored in. What is accounts receivable automation software? We really boil it down into 5 different segments. One is those automated customer communications going out to your customers. The other thing is being able to provide the collections activity management for that collector. A lot of times people are using that Excel spreadsheet to kind of prioritize who to reach out to. Maybe you're looking at the 121-day plus column of an aging spreadsheet and reaching out to those people. That's really where the solution kicks in. We're looking at customers that have paid those invoices and algorithms running to see if they've made those payments before prioritizing what the collector needs to do for that day. So it really provides a curated workload for that collector. We also have the customer self-service piece. This provides you a customer self-service platform where your invoices are stored and customers can go in there. They can download those invoices, they can make payments, and they can also set up auto pay if they'd like to. And then anything paid inside there, we use the Visual Integrator tool to push that information back into Sage 100. So that way, any of those payments that come in can quickly be applied directly to those invoices, and you don't need to do manual cash application. We also have the ability to do forecasting and reporting out of the system. So you have a lot of dashboards, a lot of information. You can even parse that in any way, and everything inside the system you can export to Excel at the click of a button. On average, this solution increases productivity by 3-fold. And a big piece of that is being able to be proactive with a lot of these reminders and catching things before they go past due. We are typically reducing days sales outstanding, or DSO, and increasing cash flow by 30% or more for most of our customers. Just to kind of highlight, with Sage 100, we have both versions of Sage 100, whether it's advanced or premium. SQL or ODBC connections. We support both versions. So if you're out there utilizing any version of Sage 100, we can work with you, even if it's the C or contractors version. So the benefit of sending these automated communications out to the customers with the system, it does a lot of things. It helps reduce paper, but it also reduces the amount of time it takes to type out an email and send it out to the customer. At the same time we're doing this automated communication, we're providing a link in there for that self-service portal where they can go and see that. We also can pull in not only account level detail, but even invoice level detail into those templates where those emails are going to go out and have very pertinent information for your customers to see. So they can see what the invoice balance is. You can pull in things like the total company balance, if they're past due or not, any of that information, and provide it to them in a templated email that's going to go out through the automation. So you don't have to touch it. Once we set it up in the beginning, it's just going to work for you. And you also have the ability to reach out to all of your customers. If you wanted to notify all of your customers that you're going to be off for the holiday or you have a certain special, you're able to use this system to do that type of thing as well. So being able to send automated communications really reduces the amount of days delinquent because you're getting ahead of those invoices being past due. So typically most customers are reaching out to their customer base when their account goes 30 days past due, or it really becomes evident when it's 60 days past due. We're reaching out to your customers before that invoice is due, reminding them they have an invoice coming due. So that type of thing really helps reduce the amount of days delinquent. And just by using those automated customer communications, our customers were able to reduce the amount of days delinquent by 53.8%. So pretty significant. The customer self-service piece, a lot of customers want to self-serve because you have a lot of people trying to do more and more with less people. And one of those things is being able to do things in your own hours. So if you're in AP, it's a whole lot easier to do that from home. And if you are doing it from home, it's difficult to connect with people during their business hours, especially if you're multiple time zones away. So this is a beautiful way to do that, being able to self-serve. Customers can go in, they can see all of their invoices, they can download those invoice PDFs, and they're the exact PDF that you have inside of Sage 100. We also have the ability, they can go in and pay those invoices. We work with multiple different merchant service providers, whether it's ACH or ACH and credit card. Those merchant service providers allow this to be a PCI Level 3 compliant portal. They can tokenize all of that information. So that's how that information works. Customers can also send a message to the collector directly through here without going through email. We have the ability to allow customers to dispute or promise to pay invoices, but that's all configurable. That also can be turned off. And they can also export the entire list of invoices into an Excel-based statement as well. Customers can also see things like closed invoices as well as previous payments. They can see any documents you have stored for them. That could be like a W-9, anything like that you like to have there for them as well. This really does help deflect a lot of those inbound emails. And I like to say that an inbound email is really a task list that was just handed to you that's now the next priority. It's very difficult if you've planned your day, you have certain calls that you want to make, and then you get an email all of a sudden that just changes your priority altogether. So this also helps reduce paper check fraud. We've had a lot of customers lately, I would say in the last 3 months, that are really interested in getting away from paper checks altogether because their customers have had checks stolen. It's very prevalent for people to have master keys that are going into US mailboxes and just pulling out checks and falsifying records and using those checks to run up a lot of fraud. And when that happens, it's really a nightmare because it's difficult to know when something was cashed. It's also difficult to know if that was cashed by the right person as well. This also helps save a lot of time and improves not only employee satisfaction, but it also improves customer satisfaction because this is a benefit to the customer to be able to get this information. So being able to use the self-service piece really helps slow down the late payments and increase those payments coming in. So if you don't have online payments, typically you're around 24% past due. If you have online payments, you're about 16% past due. That's what our studies have shown with our current customers. And we have a lot of benchmarks. And the way we do that is when you come onto the system, we take a snapshot of the AR. And then after we automate that, we take another snapshot to show the difference. And this is really where we get this data. So it's excellent benchmark data from our actual customers. So the self-service portal is a PCI Level 3 compliant portal. And just offering self-service has typically reduced the amount of past due by about 14 days. That's an 8% decrease in past due for most of our customers. This is PCI compliant, but we work with multiple different merchant service providers. So you don't need to be limited to one merchant service provider. You could shop them. Each of these merchant service providers are excellent merchant service providers. They take ACH and credit cards. We also take EFTs in Canada with Stripe. And if you wanted to pass on credit card fees to your customers, we work with a company called Interpayments. And the 3 merchants that are highlighted here in blue also work with Interpayments to take those surcharges, and they do that right on the portal and push that back to the customer. And then Interpayments works with you to make sure that everything is compliant with those surcharges, because there's some customers, some certain locations or transactions that can and cannot be surcharged. So they help you stay compliant with that as well. And the way they're paid is a portion of that surcharge. The cash application piece, we do utilize a webhook and a visual integrator import to take those payments that were paid inside that portal and push those payments back into Sage 100. So it helps reduce errors, make sure things tie out directly, and there's no remit needed because it's a one-to-one transaction. Credits can also be applied inside of Sage 100. We have the ability to display those credits and then apply those credits to invoices. But you can configure that. If you don't want to show credits on the system, you don't have to. So with our activity management, this is really a curated workflow that is created for each of your collectors. So depending on who's assigned to different accounts, we have the ability to work with you to give you a 360-degree view of the activities that have been completed. And it allows you to quickly work through that work queue as well. So being able to eliminate those aging spreadsheets and tracking, keeping everything in one spot with the activities, everything that's in Sage 100 gets pulled into this system. So you're able to see things like the previous invoices, previous payments, as well as how that customer is paid historically, if they've broken any promises to you, and also if they've set up autopay as well. This also maximizes the amount of time that it takes to go through and do a collections process. So if you are reaching out with phone calls, the work queue that's there really allows you to quickly work through that workflow and then be available for other tasks. So being able to reduce the amount of time it takes to do the actual work. So what we found is that with automating a lot of this process, we do like to pepper in manual tasks as well, having somebody reach out by phone. And what you're seeing here is really what it looks like if you don't have any communications going out to the customer. And then if you have automated communications going out to the customer with some of that activity that's already there. So having, peppering in a phone call every now and then really reduces the amount of past due. And it, if you're over 40% of automated communications, typically the collections get worse because you're not having that personal touch in there. So we like to keep that personal touch as part of the collections process. This system allows you to see a lot of data, and it's a great reporting tool. So this allows everyone in the company that's in the system to see how the company is doing overall as a whole. We have the ability to keep everyone informed of the collections process, and we have an amazing cash forecasting report. We use a predicted predicted payment analysis. So we have an algorithm that runs on our system to look at how often your customers pay their invoices, and it even breaks it down by invoice size. So if you have customers that pay small invoices quickly but hang you out really long time on the large invoices, we can identify that quickly and maybe increase the amount of communications going to them for those large invoices. So this does improve team performance and the ability to really report on accounts receivable, because we can do a modified aging report with the last activity note and the last activity date, things like that, all right in the system. We also have the ability to create your own reports and being able to take a look at that at whatever way you like to see that inside of Excel. So we also have the ability to use Power BI as well with some of our options. This is the customer spotlight. Just like to highlight, AmSpec was able to increase their working capital by $10 million using this solution. And really the way they did this was saving amazing amount of time. They were doing everything so manually. They were actually even stuffing envelopes on the last day of the month. They would bring in people off the floor, and they would have a pack and ship party for those invoices, where they were basically throwing a pizza party and everyone was folding invoices and mailing them through the snail mail at the end of the month. So it was very time consuming. The manual collections process, the spreadsheet that I showed at the beginning of the webinar was their actual spreadsheet. We did change the data, but that's how they were managing their collections. They also were hiring people with MBAs out of college to come in and run their collections department. And they were really hired to, chase that spreadsheet. And it really was not a good work environment. It was very stressful, and there wasn't a lot of guidance there. So by being able to automate the solution, they're able to eliminate a lot of that staff turnover, plus increase working capital by a tremendous amount and reducing the amount of manual time needed to do the job. So this did increase each collector's productivity by threefold, and it eliminated a lot of the staff turnover that they were having. So with our solution, we understand that the people that are doing this work can't just stop doing the work to learn a new system. So we have an 11-week implementation process. And what this entails is about an hour and a half to 2 hours a week of training. So they can go in and train, and then about 30 minutes of self-directed usage of the portal itself, or of the solution itself. So you have the ability to see that here. We typically do the 11-week implementation. If you like to speed that up, we have the ability to speed that up, but we also, if you want to slow down and there's holidays and people need to take breaks, we have the ability to do that as well. So pretty flexible implementation process. So this is the time where I really want to stop and ask for any questions. This is kind of our Q&A session. So, and if you would like more information on this, I want to point out to you to have you reach out to Garen directly, and her contact information is here as well. So what questions do you guys have?
So please drop your questions in the chat. I just dropped a message in there for Ryan.
Perfect.
I did see one question just come through right now, and you still have time to drop yours in there. And it's asking, who is a good fit for Sage AR?
So anyone with accounts receivable is a good fit for Sage AR. It is a very versatile solution. We even have a lot of nonprofits that are using this solution just to work on things internally, as well as take donations through the portal itself. It works really well. So most customers out there are a good fit for this solution. And what we typically do is have a discovery call. So if you'd like to get a hold of Garen, we can do a quick discovery call to walk you through and ask some questions, and we can tell you how good of a fit you are and even provide you a return on investment analysis of what this solution should be able to do for you based on the data that we have in those benchmarks. No questions out there, it seems like. How is the pricing structured? Great question. So we have 3 levels of service with this product. And depending on that level of service that you need, that pricing is really geared towards that. So we have an essentials model, which typically annually costs you around $7,000, depending on how many users you want to add to that. And then we go all the way up to our standard and then our pro, depending on how many collection processes you need, how many entities, if you need multi-entity support, multi-currency support, typically that's the pro platform. But even the standard platform has a lot of functionality that you may want, things like custom credit scoring, things like that. Typically, most customers are seeing a return on investment in the first 3 months of using the product, which is pretty amazing. There's not a lot of solutions out there like that. Any other questions? I think there's also going to be some information going out in a newsletter. Is that accurate?
That is correct, yes. And a replay of this for anyone who wasn't unable to attend and would like to watch it.
Awesome. Okay, went a little bit fast there. So 15 minutes for Q&A was probably a little too much, but may end up giving you guys some time back in your day. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Garen.